Thank you so much for joining us today, Mia. First off, let's start off with the platinum sector. Just looking at the performance of the stocks, it seemed that Lonmin had a huge bounce this morning and it started to come back. And then looking at the other big producers, Impala Platinum falling back over 1%, Anglo Platts flat on the day overall. When you see the comments from Lonmin before the wage deal saying that there is a trade-off between wages and jobs, you wonder how this is going to end and whether it has in fact ended right now.
Yeah, Sam, that's the whole thing at the moment, because the fact is the impact of this wage negotiation is much more than just agreeing to the wage being paid. If we look at the numbers, we're expecting at least a 13% increase on the operating costs for the next year, and that is around what is the figure I got there? Around 1.7 billion rand on the bottom line. So that impact will negatively influence the earnings by around 75% or more. And that's not even considering the fact that they've already lowered their production levels for the year. So if we look at that and we look at the profitability of the company going forward and the viability of this company doing business within this environment, it's quite difficult for us to see how they will be able to sustain that number of jobs.
Yeah, it is very concerning. So, I mean, one might jump to the assumption that it's certainly not over when it comes to the unrest we've seen, because when they do have to come to the market and have to announce job cuts, you wonder what type of reaction you're going to get from these very unhappy miners.
Well, we've already seen that today at Amplats, where miners have been protesting, and police have already started trying to order them again, and they just saying this is a victory for us at Lonmin. We're not going to stop until we see the same type of increases in our wages. So I see this as a very contagious situation. It's definitely not going to stop right where it is now. It's going to spread through the whole platinum industry, and the fact that the platinum industry don't have the collective bargaining for wages like the gold sector does have makes it quite a sticky and a problematic situation. So
it's certainly not over. Let's jump ship and talk about the telecoms players today, because I'm not quite sure why sentiment soured for the likes of MTN and Vodacom, but Vodacom the worst performer on the day. MTN falling back to 161 rand, just over that. Renaissance cutting MTN's price target, 171 rand 80. Vodacom's price target also raised rather to 104 rand 50. So let's start off with MTN. What's your view on the company?
Well, the fact that what we've seen at the moment is the fact that everyone has have tried kind of moved out of all the defensive they've been into lately. We know that commodities and those type of sectors that's more risky and more volatile to uncertainty in the markets haven't been in favor. Now, since last week, we've heard from various governments that they're increasing the stimulus going into the economies, and that means risk on again for the market. So what we're seeing is move out of defensives basically and into resources and more risky assets, and I think that was the biggest driver in these cases.
Yeah, so but overall, is MTN still a good investment, because it has had a good run to just over 160 rand. It is starting to pay out better dividends. Do you like an MTN versus a Vodacom?
Well, both of these are very good companies. I think there's actually space for both of them in your portfolio, depending on what you're looking at and whether it's sector allocation or whatever the strategy might be. And if it's long term, both of them can still do very good for you. Over the past couple of years, both these companies have performed very well. We know that Vodacom has produced more than 20% a year and 40 over the last 2 years for in total return for shareholders, where MTN has not done quite that. But MTN has the possibility going forward and over the long term to keep on increasing that value for shareholders, because they're exposed to many more emerging markets than Vodacom are.
Overall, I mean, what are your thoughts on investing in this market and the type of sector you'd want to get exposure to, given the fact that we're continuing to see central banks coming to the market and announcing more monetary easing?
Well, hopefully by now all the portfolio managers have had ample chance to increase their resource exposure, and hopefully they did that, because if they did, we've seen Anglos and so on move more than 15% since last week. So that's been significant movements in that price. So yeah, I think
more upside though, and this trend continues.
Definitely, it's still not expensive for these companies. It's now not as cheap as they were, but I also think with the movement out of defensives, we kind of seeing companies like Tiger Brands and like some of the telecoms and so on going to to have some correction, and that might just be the opportunity for investors to get into that market.
Yep, if you like those companies. Thank you so much for joining us, Mia Kruger, Portfolio Manager at Kruger Internasionaal.